Hi everyone, jumping into characterization. This is on page 6 of your Unit 1 narrative writing notes. Characters are any person, animal, or figure represented in a literary work, and characterization simply refers to the author's creation of a character's personality and appearance. So how are they making that character look? What do they want that character's personality to look like? And we're going to learn that there's two different ways that authors characterize their characters. The first is directly, and the second is indirectly. With direct characterization, it is what it kind of sounds like. It's very direct about it. The narrator is just going to come right out and tell you something about the character's personality or appearance, basically slapping you in the face with this. So, for example, Miss King was very patient with her goofy class. The information that the author wants you to know is that Miss King is very patient, and you don't have to guess to figure that out because the narrator just tells you that. In the next example, the students were mad because they had their seats changed. Again, you don't have to guess that the students are mad because the author just tells you that. With indirect characterization, this is going to be where you need to start making some inferences. So based on what the author or narrator tells you, you can make some inferences about that character's personality or appearance. So with this, remember that details are being shown rather than told directly. And there's a couple different ways that authors are going to indirectly characterize their characters. The first is via characters' actions. So in this case, Jordan is the character that we're concerned about, and the author tells us that Jordan wouldn't stop looking at herself in the reflection of her iPad. So knowing that, what type of inference can we make about Jordan? If it was me, I might think, oh, Jordan's very self-absorbed, she's maybe a little bit narcissistic, she can't stop looking at herself, she's really into how she looks. Next, authors can indirectly characterize via an other character's reaction. So in this case, Lamar covered his ears at the sound of April's singing. I want to find out something about April, and I'm going to do that by looking at how Lamar is reacting. So in this case, Lamar is covering his ears at the sound of April singing. So based on Lamar's reaction, I can infer that maybe April's singing is not that great. Next, the character's thoughts. So based on what that specific character is thinking, what inference can I make about what that person is like, essentially? So walking out of the store, Joseph could only think about how much this week's groceries had cost and how he still had to pay the electricity bill for the month. So this character is thinking and obsessing about, how much money he's spending and how he still has to pay some more money. So maybe I can infer that money's tight for him. I can maybe infer that he's a little bit of a worrywart. Maybe I can infer that he is concerned that he's not going to have enough money. Last but not least, what a character says and how he or she says it in speech. So kind of the tone and how they say something. So are they saying something happily? Are they saying something angrily? So in this example, would you stop grabbing at everything already? You're giving me a headache. If you don't behave, I'm putting you in time out, Lauren hissed at her misbehaving child. So based on what Lauren is saying, she's getting a headache. She's going to put her kid in timeout. I can maybe get that she's running out of patience. And Lauren is hissing. So maybe I can infer that Lauren's not the nicest, or she's kind of run out of all the patience that she's got. And just as a side note, dialogue is simply when two or more characters are speaking to another, and dialogue is going to be marked by quotation marks. Okay, for your characterization practice, and this is not in your notes, I just want you to grab a piece of paper and do it on the side. I want you to pick a person from your life and think of one word that describes them, and then go ahead and write this word on the front of your index card. So this word is going to be like a quality about them, like they're funny, they're happy, they're silly. It's not going to be like, oh, their hair is brown, they have green eyes. You want something more abstract. On the back of that piece of paper, you're going to write a 4 to 5 sentence situation that indirectly characterizes that person via their actions, reactions, thoughts, or speech. And you're not going to include the word that you're using to describe them on the back. So for example, if you want to see what this looks like. So I characterize Sebastian, who is my cat, maybe you remember. The word is a mystery to you because we're going to see if we can guess that. And the description in which I use indirect characterization to show what Sebastian is like. It reads, Sebastian meowed hello to his human as she returned home and approached her for some head scratches. However, his attention was quickly diverted by a paper bag that his human placed on the floor. Unable to take his eyes off of this new object, he sniffed it before reaching out with his paw and batting at it. Driven by a desire to figure out what the paper bag contained, Sebastian poked his head inside and began scuffling around. Sebastian, his human said, you've always got to see what new thing is going on. You always need to know what's going on around you, you silly cat. Take a second and try and guess my mystery word. Okay, if you guess curious or some sort of synonym of curious, maybe nosy, yes and no everything, then you would be correct. And the ways that I indirectly characterized Sebastian are indicated in colors. For example, his attention is diverted. He's unable to take his eyes off this object. He's driven by a desire to figure out what it contains. He pokes his head inside. Those are all actions that Sebastian takes. And then my reaction, which I'm saying, is you always have to know what's going on. You always have to see what's going on. So that all points to Sebastian being curious. Go ahead and do that quick characterization practice. Show it to someone in your family. See if they can guess the word that you're using to describe that person that you picked. Go ahead and pause while you do that. Okay, coming on back. Thinking back to plot narratives, we're going to do our last Pixar practice on page 5. And I want you to really think about how these two characters are going to be characterized. The title of this Pixar short is called Day and Night, and the characters are Day and Night. And as you watch, I want you to try and focus on what the conflict is. There's going to be two conflicts. One is very, very obvious, and the other one's not going to really show up until the end. And this is going to deal a lot with, their characterization. As we watch, I also want you to be filling out the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution boxes. Remember, you can do those in bullet points.